Here we are again, forming like Voltron, broadcasting out of the South Shore, not Boston. Don't confuse it, you dig? All right, here's what we're doing today. There's an episode I've kind of had in my mind that I've been formulating probably before we even actually started recording. And tonight, this is going to be another one that we're going to check off. So I have my guest, Nick, here. I'm going to get into, when I get to him, why he's here. I asked him to be with us today. We're going to talk about some stuff. But before we do it, I asked Nick if he could hang tight. Because before we get into this, there's something I want to address, and I'm going to spend a few minutes on this. This is unbelievable. About roughly probably 10 days after we recorded our last episode, Brian, who's sitting here to my left, sent me this article. The title, New York police will use drones to monitor backyard parties this weekend, spurring privacy concerns. We just did an episode on this. Everything I said in that episode, ironically, another example is brought to my desk via Brian. Brian, how ironic is that? That was that was a pretty lengthy episode. I don't know what the running time was. I say if it wasn't an hour, it was pretty close to it. We picked apart this problem. And here this is with this article. 10 days after. I encourage people to go back and listen to it. I don't want to rehash everything I said, but just to briefly kind of go over it. And I'm going to get to this article in a second. The whole episode was about, it was a discussion about where do the police stand? When your rights are in jeopardy, where do the police stand? And I made the argument, and I know this upsets a lot of police out there. I made the argument that when your livelihood, when your financial structure relies on that job, you're probably going to side with the government or the leaders or whoever it is you're probably secretly scoffing at. And that's just how it is. And that's not a personal attack on anyone's character. I'm just calling it like I see it. If anyone thinks I'm picking on the police, explain away this argument. Explain away this article to me. I'm not picking on anybody. There is a problem here and it needs to be addressed. Let's read this article. And again, I will say this one more time. Go back and listen to the last episode. And then listen to this one. And you will witness the irony. This is unbelievable that Brian sent this to me of all the episodes. 10 days after that, he sends this to me. So again, here's the title. New York police will use drones to monitor backyard parties this weekend, spurring privacy concerns. New York. This is almost laughable. Those attending outdoor parties or barbecues in New York City this weekend may notice an uninvited guest looming over their festivities, a police surveillance drone. Great. That's all I needed to hear. The New York City Police Department plans to pilot, once again, what did I say in the last episode? When this happens, when there's surveillance or your rights are taken away, who's behind it? It's usually law enforcement. Again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm calling it like I see it. Let's continue. The New York City Police Department plans to pilot the unmanned aircrafts in response to complaints about large gatherings. There's always a great reason, isn't there? Including private events over Labor Day weekend. Officials announced Thursday. Yes, there's more articles there. You found several about it. Brian, I'm actually reading the one that you sent me personally. So I've kept this for a few days, not a few weeks. If a caller if a caller states there's a large crowd, a large party in the backyard, we're going to be utilizing our assets to go up and go check on the party. All right, so Brian, if I don't like you, I can make this call and the drones will be over your house. Great. Fortunately, we don't live in New York, but I don't really think that matters. K-A-Z Daughtry, the assistant New York Police Department commissioner, said at a press conference. What's that you got there, man? Calls, yeah. Okay. Pay more than. Yeah, of course. Yes, pervasive drone surveillance. All right. Is this different from this? Did you want me to?
CNN.
Okay. The plan drew immediate backlash from privacy and civil liberties advocates, raising questions about whether such drone use violated existing laws for police surveillance. You think it violated our rights? It's a troubling announcement, no kidding, and it flies in the face of the POST Act, said Daniel Schwartz, a privacy and technology strategist at the New York Civil Liberties Union, referring to a 2020 city law that requires the New York Police Department to disclose its surveillance tactics. Deploying drones in this way is a sci-fi inspired scenario. No kidding. And Elon Musk is afraid of technology, yet he's out there building implants that go in your brain. Everyone's concerned, aren't they? Sci-fi. The move was announced during a security briefing focused on Jewovert. I can't pronounce this. Jewovert, an annual Caribbean festival marking the end of slavery that brings thousands of revelers and a heavy police presence to the streets of Brooklyn. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing that holiday. I'm not familiar with it. Daughtry said the drones would respond to non-priority and priority calls beyond the parade route. Like I said, there's always a good reason, isn't there? Here we go. Here comes the Massachusetts part. Here comes the rest of us who don't live in New York. Like many cities, New York is increasingly relying on drones for policing purposes. Data maintained by the city shows the police department has used drones for public safety. Hey, everything for safety, right? As long as it's to keep people safe. Or emergency purposes 124 times this year, up from just 4 times in all of 2022. Great. They were spotted in the skies after a parking garage collapsed earlier this year and when a giveaway event devolved into teenage mayhem. Well, like I said, it takes 2 to tango. Teenage mayhem. That's like I talk about down in our downtown Plymouth. People getting in fights, acting a fool, and then there's police everywhere, and we all have to deal with it. The tin soldiers all up and down the street because people don't know how to behave. Mayor Eric Adams, a former police captain, has said he wants to see further police. He wants to see police further embrace the endless potential drones. This guy's okay with it and he wants to see more with it. And what is he? Brian, another former police captain. What did I say in that last episode? Law enforcement is doing this. I'm sorry, guys. If you are a police officer, don't be mad at me. I am not out to get you. I am not out to cause anger at you. I am not out to start a movement against you. I understand your lives are in constant jeopardy, but this is sick. Let me start that paragraph again because here comes the best part. Mayor Eric Adams, a former police captain, has said he wants to see police further embrace the endless potential. This guy's got no shame. None. Endless potential of drones. Citing Israel's use of the technology as a blueprint after visiting the country last week. What did I say in the last episode? This was modeled after the way they do the surveillance in the United Kingdom. And now he's modeling this after what they do in Israel. Again, we're bringing these tactics into this country. But as the technology proliferates, privacy advocates say regulations have not kept up. What regulations? Opening the door to intrusive surveillance. Opening the door, the whole city is blanketed in these cameras. Opening the door?
That's how they can count all the immigrants. So good.
But as the technology proliferates, privacy advocates say regulations have not kept up. opening the door to intrusive surveillance that would be illegal if conducted by a human police officer. Okay, I'm coming to an end here. One of the biggest concerns with the rush to roll out new forms of aerial surveillance is how few protections we have against seeing these cameras aimed at our backyards or even our bedrooms. What did I say in the last episode? Talking about helicopters, law enforcement helicopters with American flags at their headquarters, wearing American flags on their sleeves, taking your rights away, aimed at our backyards or even our bedrooms. Just like I said last time, those cameras at the right angle can look right into your bedroom. Yep, already said all of this, said Albert Fox Khan, the executive director of the Surveillance Technology Oversight Program. That's STOP. I'm coming to an end. There's more here, but I'm going to finish with this. The New York Police Department did not respond to an email seeking further information about its policies. And why do they have to? Why do they have to? We want to know about this, and they don't feel like talking about it. Right, Nick? In response to a request for comment, a spokesperson for Mayor Adams shared a link to new guidelines that make it easier for private drone operators to fly in the city, but which does not address whether the New York Police Department has any policies of drone surveillance. Around 1,400 police departments across the country are currently using drones in some form, according to a recent report from the American Civil Liberties Act. A report, they're predicting that this is going to explode. Police departments everywhere are going to be using these. There was one more part I just wanted to find, if I can see it here. I believe, I don't want to say it if it's not here, but okay, I'm gonna there's a little more here, but I'm gonna kind of wrap this up. Okay, so we see what's going on here. Brian, thank you so much for sending that to me. I mean, just fantastic article, depressing, fantastic. Look, I'm going to say it again. I feel like I have to compulsively say it. I don't think there's any, I have friends that are cops that I hung out with today. They're in the audience. They know how I feel. I'm not saying anything that's unfair at all. This has to be addressed. And as I've said, finally, I'm not the only one asking about this. If you listen to the local talk or national talk kind of conservative shows, they're all starting to come around now. They're all getting nervous about the police because of, it's like this. They say that the federal law enforcement agencies are corrupt. And my question to them is, why do you think the corruption is just limited to those federal agencies? If they are, at risk of being corrupt, why can't, like I said, state police, and not just state police in Massachusetts, but local police departments. Look how many chiefs and departments as an organization sided with Governor Baker. Yes, a few police stood up and said, I'm not getting that vaccine. They got fired for it. Some are trying to get their jobs back. But as a whole, as an organization, they sided with Baker. They did not side with you, conservative talk radio audience. I know how much you love the police and you support them and all. I'm just telling you what I saw. Again, if you are in any level of law enforcement and you're angry at me for saying this, and you're coming at me, you're picking the wrong fight. I am not here to start an argument with you. I am not here to encourage people to be angry at you. I am merely extending this belief. When people say the government or the government agencies are corrupt, they're abusing their powers, I'm telling you it's not just the FBI and the ATF and Homeland Security and all that. This is widespread. How much is enough? I get that there are reasons for safety tactics. I understand it. But this is out of control. Everything is an evacuation. Everything is shut the road down. Yellow tape, orange cones. You can't come into your own neighborhood. If all we had, look what happens at the airport. You are humiliated. Your wife is humiliated in front of you. If it was just at the airport or just on the public transportation, okay, fine. Terrorists go on these vehicles. We don't want it. Okay, but it never ends. It doesn't end there. It keeps going and going and going. Here's my final word on this. You could put police or the National Guard and have them set up at every street corner in America. We can create a bubble where there are metal detectors everywhere. Put a metal detector at the end of everyone's driveway. Make sure they're not leaving their property with a weapon. You can do that. Now, I say that and people say, oh, that's absurd. Why would you do that? Well, why not? If it's for keeping people safe, why not do it? Where is the line? And as far as these drones, I told you guys years ago, when all those cameras went up, people get angry at the facial recognition cameras. They get angry at a camera that catches them going through a red light, and then they get a ticket. They were angry at these drones. This was going on long before any of that technology. When you just had the simple public surveillance camera, that's when people should have started speaking up. Donald Trump's going to save the country. Is he going to take all these cameras down? Is he going to take down these illegal checkpoints, Homeland Security checkpoints? Is he going to do that? Is he going to shut down these databases where they're storing your emails? Probably not. So I don't know how Donald Trump's going to save the country or save you. And as far as you go, Massachusetts, he did nothing to get you out of what Charlie Baker did to you for those couple years. Great lead into why we have Nick here, by the way. So before we get to Nick, I just wanted to go over that article, and I would encourage everyone to go to our last episode where we address this deeper. Brian, you sent me this article. Anything you want to say? I want to let you, anything I didn't get to or closing words on that? I mean, that was a beautiful article you sent me, and I think it reflected everything we had talked about in that last episode.
Stop the surveillance state. Carry on.
Do you think that, well, here's my one question to you before we move on. I feel that the cameras everywhere, I know I've been laughed at and made fun of on several occasions. I feel that it's not a big enough issue for most people. I really do. I think we're so used to it now that it's just one of those things that's just people will deal with it. If Donald Trump's in office, they're happy and that's about it. They don't even question it. Do you think people have become too accustomed to it?
Well, yeah. Definitely. Sorry, I was running out of
It's
battery
okay.
power.
It's okay. Are we good? Are we going to keep we got enough battery power?
They'll put up the argument that it's for safety because, I mean...
Right. It's all for safety. Right. Just like the police did.
Does it stop crime, though?
Well,
I hear about a lot of crime still.
I don't think it... I think a terrorist, it doesn't stop it at all. It helps to catch the person afterwards, no doubt. I don't think it's deterring the crime. I think it deters petty type stuff.
But what if they shut off by themselves like they do in cell blocks?
Right. Or when it's a police camera, yeah, exactly. Or a police, the personal camera they wear on them. Well, here's the thing, Brian. I think a terrorist is going to do is, I don't think anything's stopping them.
A criminal's going to be a criminal.
Right.
They're going to have guns.
Right.
They're going to do crimes.
But Brian, again, though, in those terrorist scenarios, I can dig it if I get it. Okay, we're going to have them at airports. We're going to have it at a 24-hour convenience store. Dude, what I don't like is when they're in a park. You were talking about walking in the woods and you saw them. And I named another field, a baseball park. That's just catching vandalism. Now, I'm not condoning vandalism, but it's like they said, teenage mayhem. People got to start taking responsibility too. People have got to understand if you're going to act like this and be a drunk fool and throw your trash everywhere, you're giving the police reason.
What about an air marshal on every plane? Didn't we touch on that?
Did they ever actually do that, though? I feel that was a threat that never... Because think of all the incidents on planes that have happened since September 11th, and there was no, built-in security or nothing like that.
Well, it's the safest way to fly. Nothing happens.
Right.
Planes just go to where they're supposed to
Right.
go.
Only other thing I want to say about this, I do not believe these people that they named and who were, on behalf of the police department that were making these quotes, I don't believe these guys... I think deep down they know they're doing something sketchy. I do not believe for a second that they're okay with all this. While air marshals aren't on every flight, they are authorized to fly in planes of any U.S. air. University says. However, report notes that air marshals are not allowed to fly in planes of foreign or. And what's the implication there? That they can't go on the foreign flag carriers. Why? Because probably because once they're in another country,
So
they're
that's
no
Emirates.
right.
That's,
Well, they're also out of U.S. jurisdiction. That's probably part of it too. Why they can't go on the flights? They would only have credibility if it was a, like in USA flight, like say
or
from
if they
like
were international agents,
from like Rhode Island to like Georgia or something like that. What's that?
or if they were international agents.
Yeah, that would be the way you'd have to go. I guess. Yeah.
But that would mean bigger government.
Yeah. Yeah.
Else that with that.
So anyway, so that's that. So there you go. Everyone just go back to the last. Brian, again, thank you for sending that to me. You send me a lot of stuff. I look at it all, but that was the one, as you know, that really caught my attention. So let's get into why Nick is here. Nick, I feel like when we were first putting this show together, I like today I went to you and asked you to be on tonight, but I feel like, did I mention previously, did I make any mention that this was something I kind of wanted to do and I was thinking of having you come in? Or is that, I know you don't have the best memory, but I feel like I did kind of throw this idea at you.
I believe it was mentioned in conversation.
Yeah, I think we quickly kind of, right. So here's why I wanted to have you on.
Okay.
We've talked about the coronavirus a lot on this show already,
We have.
but I wanted to do like an exclusive episode just on it.
Okay.
And I wanted to do an episode where I talked about the whole, the shutdown. As you know, I won't use the word lockdown.
Right.
I won't, we can get into that, why I don't use it. I've already explained it. Lockdown is a prisoner term. It's a prison term. Nick, I'm not a prisoner. You are not a prisoner. Brian is not a prisoner. Okay, stop saying lockdown. Well, yeah, okay, technically we are, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not doing this prison lockdown stuff.
I'm a meat
People need to have more respect for themselves. If nothing else, call it a shutdown, okay? And I wanted to just kind of talk about that whole thing and how I got through it. And the reason I wanted to have you on was because I had a group of friends who we all kind of consoled each other during it. Not because we were afraid of the virus, but because we were afraid of Charlie Baker and Karen Polito. But the thing that was unique about you amongst all my other friends, you had a big time front row seat to some of my antics. And because one of the things, and we're gonna get into all of it, right? We'll take our time and pick this apart. And again, I appreciate you being here and doing this. And I didn't think we'd get to this soon. I thought it'd be like down the road we would do it, but we're here tonight. It kind of popped into my brain. One of the things you did for me big time was, when the whole thing with the mask mandates got really heavy. I told you, I'm like, Nick, I ain't wearing this mask.
Right.
I'm not going in this store. I'm not, we used to share stories of us getting in trouble. I mean, there was a couple times someone said something to you, I think a couple times, or you got in some debates. Because the other thing with you is you were working at the mall at the time.
Yes,
so you had a lot of like inside like the stores type stories.
Yeah.
And with me, we got to a point where I'm like, dude, I'm not going to these stores. And you actually went grocery shopping for me.
I did.
And you didn't ask me for, I think maybe like we kind of like traded off a little bit. Like I might have said like, do this for me. And I'll, who knows, I'll, knock some money off the studio for the rent. I feel like I did something for you nice, like in return, but I don't remember what. But yeah, you used to go into stores for me.
I did,
And we'd meet up places and I'd be like, it was nothing major, just a few little things. And I'm like, because dude, one of the things I would do is, if you remember, do you remember I would I had these like rules that I came up with how to get away with it. One of the things I would do, I would purposely go into a store like 10 minutes before they close.
Yes.
Because I knew at that point, dude, they just want to get out of there.
Yeah.
They had just given up on life. They were ready to leave. And I could and there weren't many people in the grocery store. But there were days when I just kind of needed something and I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of came in. So here's what I want to do. Let's start at the beginning, okay? Before this coronavirus thing ever happened, I just want people to know I already had a very intricate view of illness. I feel like there are many illnesses we got when we were kids that were no big deal.
Yeah.
And suddenly as we get older, they suddenly become this big catastrophe. Why? Well, not to get conspiracy theory about it, but it's not, I hate the whole conspiracy theory thing. I don't speak about conspiracies. I just talk about what I see in front of me. Flu vaccine.
Yeah.
Flu was never a problem, ever. Now, maybe by the time you're younger than me, maybe it was more common for kids to
It
get the
was,
flu.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
For me, it was, I mean, you got the flu, nobody even flinched.
Yeah,
no one
'cause
cared.
even if a regular doctor checkup,
Right.
they'd ask, "Hey, do you want to just get a flu
Right.
shot
You
while
guys
you're
were
there?"
indoctrinated
Yeah.
at that
Oh,
point.
big
Right.
time,
Right.
big
Just like you grew up with the surveillance cameras in the schools and the hall passes and the doors locked because of Columbine. I didn't have
Yeah.
any of that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We definitely remember hall passes.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I start seeing these vaccines, like the flu vaccine, the chickenpox vaccine, and I became very concerned.
Yeah, I had all those.
Right, because I said, these are illnesses we get all the time. I mean, the chickenpox does nothing to you, just other than make you look silly.
Yeah.
But I said, if we're getting vaccines for this stuff, we're going to have no immune system left. We're getting
Right,
vaccines for stuff that's stupid. And you have to drum up fear to get people to want these vaccines. So the stage was already set. This was not about coronavirus, what it could or could not do to you. I already had these views anyway.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought if something ever comes along that's a cold, they're going to be able to terrify people. Well, sure enough, coronavirus comes on. And dude, if you remember at the beginning, see, I don't think it was created to control people or whatever. I think these sicknesses are always coming and they
Yeah.
saw an opportunity. Because if you notice at the beginning, Fauci and all these guys, literally, Nick, they were just like, listen, man, just wash your hands, take care of yourself,
Yeah.
keep your old people in the house, you'll be fine. And then as they saw they could get something out of it, that's when they started pushing the...
Yeah, when they noticed that they could terrify
Right,
people.
and that's when you get like
we can
Rachel...
get rid of this. We can get away with that.
Right, and that's why you have like Rachel Maddow and Fauci and all them. You know, with clips of them at first saying, don't wear a mask, and then suddenly they are saying,
Yeah.
you know, the command hadn't come down yet. So, you know, and now the other thing, the opposite is it's come on the other side. I've heard guys now on TV, on the radio, that were terrified during this, and now they're like, well, we know now it's not a big deal. You know now it's not a big deal. You just took 2 years of our lives. So, okay, so let's get into like where you and me together come in. So, dude, I want to talk to you about some stuff.
Okay.
Just some of the zaniness. You and me had so many phone conversations, and I'd like to just kind
I
of
think it was
talk.
pretty much like an almost weekly phone.
Yeah, we were
conversation.
checking in with each other, and I
'Cause
just
I was at Newberry Comics.
right
I was
at the mall
at
because
the- at
that's
the Social
significant
Plaza,
too.
yeah.
You saw the mall, okay?
You saw people in the mall. I worked at Target at the same
Right.
time, so I saw those people.
Right.
And then I worked as a tire tech at AutoZone or whatever the hell,
Right.
whatever the place was.
Right.
And that I didn't see too much of.
Right,
But
right.
the Target and the mall definitely were
Right.
eye opening.
Right. And dude, like one of the things was you and me, like like I said, we had a lot of wacky stories that I feel like some of this stuff I want like this audience to hear it finally.
Yeah.
Like we had some good material. We weren't even trying. We were just like talking to each other. But dude, let's start with this first. One of the things you and me first noticed, and we would call each other at night, and I know I was super stressed out, and I feel bad because I feel like I stressed you out, and it got to the point where you were losing your
Inadvertently
mind
stressed me
too.
out, yeah.
Right. Here's some of the silliness. The first thing that comes to mind at the very beginning. Did you remember when we would talk about like, okay, there's this virus going around. It's wiping out everybody. Run to the hills. But you're not going to get it at the takeout restaurant.
Yeah.
And we talked about how, dude, these little sub shops are so small. And they will Baker says it's okay for all these people to pile in there. And you don't get the virus when you're in there. But what I laughed at, what was so funny, Nick, do you remember you and me? We had a lot of friends, people close to us, people we worked with, maybe family members.
Yeah.
When we would bring this up to them, when we would be like, how come you don't catch it when you go into the takeout place? They would laugh at us.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
both had incidents where people laughed at us. They're laughing
Yeah,
at
you
like,
just don't get it. You just don't get it. You don't care. You don't care.
but what didn't we get? So you catch it,
Yeah. It's just pretty simple stuff.
but you catch it at school.
Yep.
You catch it at the library, but you don't catch it at Subway.
Yeah.
I don't, and I'm
That's
asking
because
people.
Subway you eat fresh there.
Okay, but people are right. And dude, you know what? We can
Yeah.
make up jokes. What you just said was, I mean, why not?
Yeah. No.
Like
no.
what you just said. I know you're laughing, but I mean, it's just as zany as
Yeah.
you know. That was something that. Go ahead.
I went to this example. I went out to eat, and this was when they had moved. Like they had dining inside and they had dining outside.
Right.
In either place,
Right.
in order to get through the door,
Right.
you had to wear a mask.
Right.
As soon as you were through the door
Right.
and at your table, you could take it off.
Right.
As soon as you sat down,
Right.
Okay, cool. You don't have to wear a mask.
So now the whole
So,
room
like,
has no mask.
Yeah, the
in it.
entire
Right, okay.
interior of the restaurant, no mask. Everybody's sitting there
Right,
having a good
right.
time, like as if nothing happened.
Right.
But when you get up, you have to go to the bathroom. You
Right.
got to put a
You
mask
put it
on,
back on,
to
right.
go to the bathroom.
Right. Right. And you and me are evil for being suspicious of this.
Yeah,
Continue.
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
So we opted to sit outside,
Right.
and so again, as soon as you sit down, you can take the mask off. You have to go to the bathroom, put the mask on,
Right,
and go to the
right.
bathroom. And it just it didn't make any sense. Like I couldn't put 1 and 2 together to make 3. It doesn't.
Right. It was simple math. We kept talking about that. We're like,
Yeah.
dude, this is simple mathematics.
Yeah, and
And we're
I would
being
ask him,
laughed
like,
at.
explain this to me. Why do
Right.
we have to do this?
And you very
Why?
rarely
Why?
get an
Why?
explanation.
Never.
Right.
Just because, just do it. Just do it. We have to do it. I don't like to do it, but we have to do it. Then don't do it.
Nick, do you remember one of the things I did? And it became a hobby. And I look back now and I'm just like, this just shows me how I was losing my mind during it. I'm almost like, I get like embarrassed to even say, well, no, I'm glad I did it. It's funny. But dude, do you remember what I would do? I would call like government built, like
Yeah,
town
yeah.
halls, city
Town
halls.
halls, yeah.
But dude, I would call them around the country.
Yeah.
Like if I saw Lori Lightfoot got caught without a mask in Chicago, I would call her office the next day. And I'm like, hey, how come Lori didn't have a mask on? Dude, I was calling all over the country.
Yeah.
And Nick, the thing, like I get, like I want to touch upon, like you just said, dude, they had no answer. Like
Yeah.
none of these people had an
Nobody
answer.
could give us all an answer.
Right, and they get angry at me. I remember I talked to this one guy in Illinois. He was like high up in like the school department for like the state. And I said, these kids are wearing masks, yeah. And I said, but they all take it off when they're eating. He goes, yeah. Okay, right. So they're all in the cafeteria, a few hundred kids.
Yeah.
And they take it off.
The
and
biggest place to
they
find
don't
germs
they
is
don't
in
catch
school
anything. And he
cafeterias.
goes, well, sir, they could, but the kids have to eat. And I go, wait a minute. Dude, if this was like Night of the Living Dead, zombie apocalypse type disease, picture how they marketed it to us.
Yeah.
Nick, go back to the beginning. People thought there were going to be piles of dead people on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Oh,
they
yeah.
really thought
Yeah, well,
that.
I think-
We're going to run out of places to put. I mean, that's what they marketed.
It was very
This-
Walking Dead-ish.
Yes, it was.
That kind of mentality.
Right.
If we don't, hazmat suits and masks.
That's
and
how they.
everything,
That's how they
dude.
painted it.
Yeah,
I think what
yeah.
you're saying is very accurate.
And if you like, I seen this woman, and she would come in weekly at Target.
Right.
She had full garb,
Right.
gloves.
Nick, I respect that more. I actually respect that more.
everything.
Right.
It looked like she was
Right.
wearing a beekeeper's
Right.
suit. Dude.
But
It
dude,
was
I
nuts.
respect that more. You know why? Because I've always said, unless you wear the spacesuit,
Yeah. Oh, it
unless
was
you're taking
definitely
ET out of Elliot's house,
Yeah.
like, that's Nick. The people handling the coronavirus in a laboratory are wearing all that.
right.
Okay, so we can laugh at her. It is funny, but that I can dig. Okay, that at least you know. Like I always said, dude, that little mask, you would have to wear the whole face shield, like helmet or something.
Kids would get in through your ears.
Right, anywhere, right? So back to what I was saying. So I said to the guy, I said, if this is what you say it is, then the kids are gonna have to skip eating and wait till they get home. Dude, this guy was so horrified. How could you do this to these? You're saying these kids are gonna go without? I go, yeah. I'm not saying starve the kids at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if this is what you say it is, and they could bring this home to elderly people, or the kids themselves could die. They eat before and right after school. Okay, what would you rather? Them be a little hungry? It's not going to kill them, right?
Yeah.
Be a little hungry, or potentially get the worst disease in all of the history of the universe. Which is it? By you saying that they can go in that cafeteria and take the masks off, you are giving away that you do not think this is on the magnitude of what you're selling to the people.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. Okay, if this was some type of airborne Ebola, airborne AIDS, there is no way they would have those kids in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm telling, they wouldn't even have lunch. They would figure out a way. They'd be like, listen, you're gonna have to eat, or we're gonna go. I'll go outside and spread across the field and eat. I mean, they would think of something. Again, giving away the restaurants. Downtown Plymouth. I've told this story over and over again.
I think too. Before you get into
Go
that,
ahead, yeah.
The whole, what was it, 6 feet apart thing? That was one of their big.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I that didn't make any sense to me either. Like,
Okay.
why 6 feet? Why not 5 feet? Why not 10 feet?
The reason it doesn't make
It just-
sense is because
Why that magic number?
we're 6 feet apart, but then I just touched the jar of whatever food.
Yeah.
And now you're
I just
touching
washed my
it
hands
too.
in the sink and I touched the same
Right, like-
spigot that everybody else did.
Right. How about they're washing the doorknobs, but then everyone could touch the same credit card machine?
Or exchange money.
Right. So it doesn't.
Even
It doesn't. There's always another action that cancels it out.
Yeah.
But like Nick, the other one too, and this audience has already heard some of these stories. Downtown Plymouth was the best.
Yeah.
And they had the COVID awareness, COVID office. What were they called? The COVID something. They were like offices that walked around and like made sure you had your mask. Everyone in the street, you see lines of people going in the restaurant with the mask on.
Yep.
Dude, and then you look in the window of the restaurant. Oh, COVID ambassadors. That's what they're called. On the other side of that mirror, in that restaurant, packed. 70, 80, 100 people sitting shoulder to shoulder with no mask on.
Yep.
But to get in on outside, they're wearing the mask. Dude, it's sick that people went along with this. Just sick.
I lost a bunch of friends because of it.
Oh, what? Let's talk about that. There are people disgusted with, well, not just coronavirus stuff, but there are
I
people.
mean, there was other stuff attached to it, but
Yeah.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
You either, you were either on one side or you're on the other. There was no middle ground.
Right.
In the real deep heat of it,
Right.
You were the mask and you cared about other people and wanted to stay safe and stuff, or you were the opposite side, which
Right.
is you just didn't give a shit about anybody and refused to follow protocol or wear
Yeah,
masks.
Brian stopped talking to me because I didn't get the shot. I'm just kidding. So,
I was threatened to get kicked out of my living situation if I didn't get it. I was threatened to get lose my job if I didn't get it.
Right.
I was forced against my will
Nick,
to have to get that stupid thing.
I didn't get the shot, but I eventually had to do things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I had to. There was some brutal, things that I don't know. I don't want to get personal stuff, but there's stuff I'm going to have to look back on in my life that I'm just like, dude, this wasn't cool.
Yeah.
What I had to
Yeah.
do.
Very embarrassing.
Embarrassing, humiliating.
Yep.
There's people I love and care about who I know probably still are angry at me about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I still love them and care about them. And, it's sad because, the other thing too, Nick, is that I'm not the one with the problem. I wasn't the one cutting people out of my life.
Oh,
they
I
were
wasn't
cutting
either.
me out.
Yeah.
So
You're like, what happened too is with the coronavirus and in the 2020 election with Trump too,
Right.
that all tied in together.
Oh yeah.
So if you were against the mask, you were pro-Trump. If you were for the mask, you were against it, which is what people either lumped you into that group so quickly. You're against the mask, you're pro-Trump.
Here's the other thing.
Sorry, I don't know what to swear about.
And I think, Brian, you might be able to elaborate on this. I remember at the very, very beginning of it, very embryonic stages, immediately I recognized, okay, there's this coronavirus. People are going to have different opinions, whatever. All of a sudden, I noticed it was like people on the left were immediately saying, look at this idiot Republican religious guy. He's against the vaccine.
Yeah.
It was almost like
It became politicized real fast.
Now anything going against what they're doing is right wing.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Anything.
what was weird, dude? It was so orchestrated. It was so like from the beginning these lines were drawn. Like if you're for this, you're going to be this. It was almost like we were assigned what side we were going to.
The method itself has been brewing for like 150 years.
Right, because Brian, what I'm getting at is this. I'm like, dude, all these people that are like buying into the coronavirus, it was almost like they were going to some secret website that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. Like, dude, these are guys are getting some command from somewhere that I'm not in the loop here, and I'm missing something.
It's weird because the more I think about it, more I look back on this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the movie They Live.
I've seen massive sections of it because of you.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper's in it.
Right,
so another friend brought it up to me this week, and I said to her, listen, I should have seen it front to back. I was part of that fan of that era of wrestling. I was a fan. I should sit down and watch it front to back. But Nick, tell the audience a little about it, because that movie's getting more popular now because of all the stuff.
Massive.
When it came out, it wasn't that big. Tell us about that movie.
So, in a nutshell, there's aliens living among us, but they're just in human form, and they have taken over government agencies, news agencies, anything and everything.
Right.
And we don't notice it.
Right.
Because we're just going about our daily lives, whatever, no big deal. The main character, John Nader, who Roddy Piper plays.
That's Roddy?
Yeah,
Is that okay? Roddy Piper, one of the great. Hold on. Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis, WrestleMania 3. One of my favorite matches of all. And that is the match when Brutus Beefcake became Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Just wanted to throw that out. So
or the one where he did the match against Virgil and he was half black.
I never saw that. You see Virgil. Now there was a stereotype. Dear Lord.
It was very stereotypical.
Yeah, it was $1 Million Man and Virgil. But anyway, so go on, Nick.
And so it wasn't until he stumbled across a group of people that were working out of a church or abandoned church or whatever. They were making these glasses that would show the truth of everything around you.
Right. So it was an underground resistance that was making the glasses.
Underground resistance, correct, yeah.
Right.
He stumbled upon him, found these glasses, and he took the glasses, put them on, stumbled into society, and it was just absolutely mind blown about everything that's going on. You could see the people that were actually aliens. You could see the signs.
The billboards would tell you what they really meant.
Exactly. Right. You'd have one that says vacation here.
Right.
And instead it would say, when you put the glass on, it would say obey.
Right.
Or it would say, have kids, marry, and just reproduce and do the same thing over and over again. Buy, consume, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Very, again, things that normal people, or your average everyday Joe wouldn't necessarily notice, but people that were had become in the loop or compound of that underground network were picking up on and were trying to inform other people. Right. And again, it was at that time, the more I look back on it, the more it's very much like that movie, the underground resistance, the people that were against wearing masks were like, look, dude, this is going on. This is what's happening. Don't you see it? Right. And these people are just like, dude, do you not just care about anybody else? You don't care about, your grandmother's safety or whatever, whatever it is. And
it was always It
was always, you were the one being laughed at and made fun of, and then in the end, it's just like, well, and at the end of that movie, not to spoil anything, but like they all become the secret's out.
Do you remember when I finally, not that I was ever playing along with it, but the
Equilibrium is another good one. That's very much that touches on the whole coronavirus.
Another part, another thing I remember when it got to the point, like, even though I wasn't buying into it, I was trying to respect people and stay out of people's way. Yeah. Dude, the point where I just became reckless and I'm just like, dude, stop. I'm not even going to have this debate with you anymore. Was, as you remember, I had several occurrences in my life where one of two things happened. I hugged or kissed an elderly person. Yeah. And then found out a day later that someone I worked with or was in a band with or was out somewhere with had the coronavirus the week before. Yeah. And then nothing happened to that person.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing. Dude, it happened over and over. Nick, this wasn't once or twice. It kept happening. I'm talking relatives in their 90s. Yeah. The other one was relatives catching it over and over again. Elderly in their 90s. I'd be like, what happened to you? Well, I got this sensation, I don't care what dude, that's we talk a lot about ghosts. I'm into paranormal stuff. Yeah. I don't want to hear, I always hear this thing. There was this feeling in the room. It was like this dude, I don't care about the feeling. Yeah. I want to see the photo of the ghost, right? Which they are out there. People catch ghosts on camera. I'm not laughing at it. I'm saying I want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear you got a feeling.
Evidence.
Same with the coronavirus. Dude, unless blood's coming out your ears, I don't want to hear about it. And that was the other thing is that, like, dude, I finally looked around, where I work. It went through that building over and over and over. I'm finally like, does this thing kill anybody?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it happened at all of my jobs.
Right.
Everybody got it, and then they were back to work in 2 weeks.
Dude,
it made no sense. Made no sense.
Oh yeah, so just want to say quick. Yeah. That was the part where I finally am like, dude,
this is nothing. This is like cold.
Like, I never once took a test. People are like taking that. I'm like, dude, stop taking that test. Yeah. That's part of the magic. I have a question. Finish your story because I have a specific question for you.
I forgot where I was going.
You said at your job, it went through your job a bunch of times.
Yeah. So I mean, it went, like I said, it went through everybody's. It went through Newbury Comics. It went through the tire place. Everybody got it.
Right.
And they were home for maybe a week.
Right.
If that. And they went back to work. It was like as if nothing happened.
Right.
Well, how did you feel? Like I had a cold, which it was. It was just a cold.
Dude, you had one story in particular, and it was wild, dude. And I'm already gearing up that you're not going to probably remember it.
Probably.
You had this one story where something happened in your work, and the way they went about it made like no sense. And I'm like, wait, explain that to me again. Like it was ludicrous. And it had to do with somebody I think you worked with, like the brother had it or someone in their house had it. And then but it was the whole thing where like something to the effect of like one guy was clearly exposed to it, but they didn't care and they let him stay. But the other guy had to go. Do you remember the story? It just the way they went about like dishing out who could stay and who couldn't, or who was exposed to it, or it was just. I remember something about.
I feel like it was probably at the tire place,
or maybe it was like it was definitely the tire place, or like. You were moving a woman's car and she was mad that you didn't wear the mask in the car. Or there was all these stories, dude. You were telling me, and they were just so off the wall, man.
I mean, again, you had to wear it. You didn't have to wear it when you left the building. When you're outside, didn't have to wear it. When you got in the person's car and you put the windows down, as you should, so the keys don't get locked in. You had to put it on when you're in the car. Which again, that you're breathing the same air that you are outside of the car. What's the difference when you're in the car?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wish I could remember the story, man. It was something to do with specifically about, like I said, one guy who tested, like everyone had to get a test, and it was like something where it was like, I know what it was. This guy came in. I think this is the gist of it. He had it, hung out with you guys for like a week, and then they tested everybody, and like nobody had it. And I'm like, you all sat in the room together.
Yeah. Well, this was when...
like, if this is the fastest spreading disease, how did you not? So you got it, but this guy didn't get it.
I do. Like it's starting to come back to me a little bit. So at the very beginning, when they were doing like all the the shutdowns or whatever like that, and everybody was staying inside.
Right.
We being working at Target, working at the tire place and stuff like that, considered essential employees.
Okay.
So we could work.
So you're not going to spread it to anybody?
No, definitely not.
Okay, yeah.
And
funny, they let us work through the whole thing too at my job. But
mean, and again, we're all sitting in the break room, or in the waiting room, whatever. Right. If we're inside, dude, I don't understand why nobody had to wear a mask.
Right.
We didn't. If we're out in the garage, didn't have to wear it.
Right.
You know what I mean? The weirdest places that we had to wear it. If you go up to the counter, you had to wear it.
Right.
If you walk away from the counter, you didn't have to wear it.
Right.
If you sit in the waiting room, you could if you wanted to. You didn't have to.
Right.
If you're out in the where the garage is, you had to get into the car to start the car for the person or whatever. Right. You had to wear the mask. When you get out of the car and you're back in the garage, you didn't have to wear it.
Right.
Whatever. So the point is, one of the techs, I believe his brother or cousin got it, and the boss
lived in the house with the guy.
Yeah. The boss found out, and he said, so and so has a relative that has, had the coronavirus, had the disease, whatever, and so now we have to test everybody in the store. Okay. So they did, and the tests came back negative. So like, well, what was the point of that?
Right.
Just to be sure that nobody had it.
Right. But and I think what I was getting at was, and that was another big hole for me, was people having it, being around people and not spreading it.
Right.
That was when it was like, dude, come on, something's up here. How about the remember the other thing we used to laugh at? I used to tell him, like, man, that thing ain't going in my nose, dude. It ain't happening. I saw what's his face and Cuomo, the governor there.
Yeah, they took the swab
going down. What a loser. I mean, dude, what like again, have some self-respect. That thing was this long and it's going down to the back. And I said to you, I go, dude, that can't be good. That can't be good sticking something that deep in your nose. Come on. You know, so that whole thing too. You ain't getting near me with that thing. Everyone's like, I got tested. Did you get tested? Did you get tested?
Well, that became the thing. Hey, did you get tested?
Yeah. Well, like I said, that was part of the magic.
We couldn't find any test kits. Did you have one? We have an extra one.
Right. Well, how about, dude? Do you remember when I said I used to say when I went by that these are all the rage now. These little like drive-through medical places.
Yeah.
What are they called?
I don't know what they
goes
like
to them now.
camps.
Again, I don't go near whatever they are. Yeah. Anyway, and I drove by one in Norwell, and I'm like, I see these lines. I didn't know what the place was, and I asked a friend, "What is?" And they go, "Oh, that's they're getting coronavirus tests." I'm like, dude, I thought they were getting tickets for Led Zeppelin. Yeah. I go, that
I think they had
line
one
was
set
going
up
around the block
at the airbase in Weymouth. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, they resurrected that air base for the
coronavirus.
Here's
tour.
Another one, Nick.
Coronavirus tour 2020.
Right. Here's another funny one, dude. I remember, and this was a couple different times this type of thing happened, where I would have a friend whose like girlfriend or their mother or someone they're around all the time, right? Worked at say like a Dunkin' Donuts, or like a McDonald's or some type of restaurant that, like where they're behind the counter, right? And they're like, hey, I can't be around you guys. I'm not coming to like whatever the thing was, right? The gathering or whatever was going on. Hey, I can't go. Why? My girlfriend was exposed. Oh, was she really? I go, what does she do? She works at Dunkin' Donuts. All right. And what happened? Well, a customer called and said, I was there earlier today, and I go, dude, you understand that probably 378 people probably came through that door that day alone that had the coronavirus and didn't know it.
Yep.
Okay? That's just the one you knew about. Just by going to the grocery store, you're exposing yourself. Just by going in public, it's everywhere. Yeah. Okay.
Everything you touch has some kind of a virus.
Right. Yeah. And again, dude, it's like, okay, look at the. I think it was the swine flu. It was one of those. Like I said, when Obama was president, I think it was 11,000 people, 10 or 11,000 people died from this thing. And I said, where's the shutdown? Where was the shutdown? And people go, whoa, it wasn't that many. It wasn't enough. What do you mean it wasn't enough? Every life matters, right? If it's worth saving one person, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Where's the shutdown? Safety. So 11,000 people's lives weren't worth a shutdown. The reason there was no shutdowns is that because that's just not how we conduct business in this country.
Yeah.
Okay. What else, dude? There was a lot that went on with that.
There was one.
Me with my terrorist mask. What were you gonna say?
I was in Maine, and we had gone to this donut shop that's in Portland, Osaka, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy behind the counter had the whole, the mask. He was wearing the gloves and stuff like that.
Did he have the shield up?
The shield, the shield. That was the other thing. People still have shield. I could get in here.
Dude, like I said, once it's part of the culture, it will never go away.
And it hasn't.
We'll get to that too.
There's still shields up.
I don't want you to forget your story.
So
let's get to that next, what you're talking about, but finish your story. We'll get to that.
So I don't even think he was wearing gloves. I can't remember. But it was something like that. When we were I was giving him cash.
Right.
And they were like, they had a little bucket, little cup where you had to put the money into it because they didn't want to touch it, and you put it underneath. But then
he touched
it and take it out.
Right.
So what was the point of that?
Right.
I could have just handed it to you and taken it like a normal person would, but I had to put it in this cup and slide it underneath this fucking
I had a
plexiglass.
story like that where, dude, if you remember again, something I don't normally do, but I was going through, you know how like we laugh like at a Dunkin' Donuts, I don't know what to do because I never. Yeah. So like I tell the person next to me, dude, I'm going to put my seat back, just yell over me and order because I don't understand how this stuff works, right? I'm not like a Dunkin' Donuts guy.
Yeah.
And
more of a Starbucks guy.
Right. No, not that either. But I remember like again
Mary Lou's, I knew it.
Right.
Okay.
To stop. to avoid, these places, I made a habit. I started like, we've talked about there's times if I get worked up, I'm not really into medication or taking a Pepsid or Alka-Seltzer. So a lot of times I will drink soda to fizz calms me down. And so I would go through like a drive-through place to just get a soda. And this one time I went through and the kid puts the tray out. And I put the money in the tray. He comes and puts my change in the tray. And I'm like, what's with the tray? And he's like, oh, it's because of the germs. I go, right. I go, so does the tray get rid of the germ? Like, how did the tray cleanse the germs off my money? He's like, I guess it doesn't really. I'm like, right. Again, no answer.
Yeah,
right?
Think about that, man.
So, yeah. So here's what I want. So, I'll get to in a second the thing we were talking about, how it never really went away. Yeah. Before we do it, one other thing I want to say this. So back to these phone calls I was making. One of my favorite ones, I called, I think it was the Kingston Board of Health.
Yes.
And by the way, the people on the Board of Health, I found out, they answer to nobody. I mean, dude, they've got like, assistants. And the woman even said, well, you can email them. They might email you back. Maybe. Great, right? Yeah. So the only way is to actually go to a meeting, right? And I don't live in Kingston, but the reason why was because they were doing all this, I think it was after the state mandate was over. They were going to, be heroes and put their own mask mandate back in. And I guess they fought it and it didn't happen from what I understand. But, I called and I said the thing about, like the restaurants. And I'm like, about the mask and eating. She's like, sir, what is it you're trying to ask me? I go, what I'm asking you is, what is it about the Olive Garden sign that scares the disease, the illness away? It sees the Ruby Tuesday sign and it runs in the other direction. Yeah. And I'm like, why did you not catch it in the restaurant? And she's just like, I don't know. Dude, this was the representative of that organization. Yeah. With some, I would hope, knowledge in germology or something, why she got to be part of that group, even though she wasn't actually sitting on the board. She worked in the office. Dude, she had no answer. Nick, I can't tell you how many times people, dude, I barely graduated high school, barely. People with incredible knowledge, degrees, diplomas from all these medical schools, dude, they were just like rendered helpless when I would ask them these questions. Yeah. They were lost, caught in the headlights. They had no idea what, it's like, dude, you should be mopping the floor with me. This should not be this easy, I was going to say, so here's the other thing like I want to talk to you about was we talked a lot. I said to you, I go, Nick, when this is over, it's still going to be here.
Yes. Yeah.
Once it's part of the culture. And I said, look at Asian countries. That's where the concept of the mask came from.
Yes.
And I said, we will be like
I was there, and the mask thing was, people have been doing that ever since the mask was a thing, was when you were sick and you had to go out, wore a mask out.
It was the sick person wearing it. And I was aware of that, right? When I was in Japan, it was explained to me that was the that person wore it, so they're not giving it. Okay, fine. But dude, that's their culture. Yeah. Japan especially, very clean country, very germophobic. They carry their trash with them all day long and throw it away in their own bucket when they get home. Yep. So that's what they did. And that's great, dude. But that's their country. That's not ours. Right, and I said, watch, after this, the mask will be part of our culture now. And it is. Yep. You said right after when it was all over, you're like, dude, people are still wearing masks. I go, yeah, you're going to see it forever now.
And they do. It's now, we're going, coming up on 2024. Yeah. And there's still people wearing masks. Right. There's still people wearing gloves. There's still shields up and stuff.
I think it's because people think they're ugly.
Maybe, yeah. If that's the case, then good. What? Keep wearing that mask. I don't want to see your ugly face.
If you have cosmetic insecurities, that is a great way to. So, dude, sometimes when I absolutely had to go in with it, like, dude, what happened to me is I got fatigued by it. I would call you like, happened again today, Nick. What? Someone thought it was going to come to a fist fight. Thought the police were going to be called. I mean, people were angry.
Yeah, people were
angry.
Bullshit. Like, dude, if you're not wearing a mask, I'm going to call the cops.
Dude, I remember this one dude.
That's not that serious.
Shaw's in Hanover. And I talked about this on a previous episode. I listened again. I accidentally think I said Hanson. It was actually Hanover. Dude, this girl had seen me come in. It's like this guy again. Dude, she was like, you have to have a mask on. I just like looked at her and laughed. Went to the bathroom, came out. Dude, there's these 3 dudes coming at me with her. She went and got them.
Yeah.
And they looked like they were like managers. Dude, they were angry. They wanted to brawl, dude. And I'm just looking at this like, all right, time for me to leave, right? Dude, they were ready to like,
yeah.
Can you imagine the lawsuit if they smashed my teeth all over the floor? And they were okay with it, dude.
Yeah.
And you know what, dude? The law probably would have stood with them. You know, as definitely. I explained in this opening like segment of this episode.
It's all for safety.
Dude, you know what, man? Like, I'm out of here. I maybe, okay, if you guys want to maybe one at a time and give me a break in between. But, I mean, the three of you are going to kill me.
Yeah.
These guys are going to kill me. And, Nick, I'm not even implying that they were like in shape, big, like burly. I mean, it
worked just at Shaw's. I can't imagine.
They were actually kind of out of shape, and it was just. I'm like, dude, these guys are dedicated to this.
Yeah,
they want me out. They are ticked off.
Yeah,
and I'm like, all right, later. So that happened, but there were times, dude, when I was just so tired with it, and I remember like I called it the terrorist suit that I had.
Yeah,
that whatever that
the
thing
face
was.
diaper.
That big terrorist like.
Yeah.
That thing looked like I was coming in to rob the place, and there was nothing they could do about it. Like, yeah, this is
well,
what
I mean, I think that.
Sorry if it makes you uncomfortable.
I think
people were grabbing their kids and pulling them close to them, like when they'd walk by.
There's different. I mean, everybody wore some kind of a mask, whether it was the surgical one or a bandana, or whatever.
Well, that was silly too. You could make your own mask.
Well,
so we're not even using like proper equipment.
Right.
Go on, Nick.
I mean, and you could use like the neck gaiters or whatever. You know what I mean? But that, I think, too, fueled crime too. How are they gonna recognize the face?
Oh, definitely did.
You know what I mean?
There were
like
examples of that too. Can I see this?
If you got a mask on your face, how are they gonna know who you were?
What the? Okay, what's that person up to? Okay, so anyway, here's the other one. Do you remember my story at the coffee shop when I was going to retrieve money from someone that owed me some money, and I walk in, dude, there's 30 people in this shop, right? And none of them have a mask on. They're all eating.
Yeah.
And I kind of sat down. We're all hanging out. And this person went up to get change to give me the money they owed me. And I see them looking at me. He comes over. He's like, hey, dude, unless you're going to wear a mask, you're going to go outside. I'm like, dude, nobody in here is wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but they're all eating. And I'm like, okay. So if I'm holding like a donut in my hand, I can stay. He's like, yeah. And dude, it wasn't even like they were trying to get me to buy something.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like get out of buy. They were totally cool if I was eating someone else's food. It's just I had to eat something. I have a mask on, right? And I'm like, so the donut repels and it's like, yeah, I know. And it's that whole thing.
I know.
What do you know, dude?
Yeah, you don't know anything because you're still following the rules.
And Nick, what made me so angry is these guys on that TV in that shop. The CNN's on every day. They're screaming about the liberal takeover. Massachusetts is communist. Dude, don't go in that place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there was another guy who went to another shop where they weren't making them wear a mask.
There were a couple places. There were a couple places that didn't enforce the mask mandates. There was a couple bars that were.
Quick shout out.
Dude, you don't have to wear a mask in here. I'm like, really? This is great.
My friend Alexandria told me about that. I was I was aware of that whole thing. Yes. Anyway, so yeah, dude. So like these people are always just like screaming at the TV. They know this is happening, and then they're just like, and Nick, I'm not even asking people. I understand not everyone has the capability to protest or to lose their job. I'm not asking them to do that. I'm saying, dude, when that ridiculous statement was made to me, I got up and walked out. And nobody else walked out with me. If it bothered them that bad, they should have walked out. Yeah. They scream about all this stuff. And then a lot of them didn't even realize what I had done. They didn't even make the connection that I was protesting. You know what I mean? It was just, it's just sad. Like, I've heard a lot of people too say, like YouTube bloggers I've seen and stuff saying, just what I said. Dude, I understand, like, if you're not in a position to protest. But where's the discussion?
Yeah.
Even on the level of discussing this with people are just lost in buying into all this silliness.
I think people were afraid to have that conversation because they would lose
probably
a bunch of friends or family members, whatever the case is.
And like I said, Nick,
because it would ostracize you from your friends group.
Right.
Which, you know, as you know, we went through something similar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, yeah, we did. And again, Nick, you know, people saying to me like, it's real. How can people are dying? Dude, your own officials are telling you it's a 99% survival rate. 99% survival rate.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Like, how many times does an elderly person have to be exposed in front of me and not have nothing happen to them? Sometimes they're getting it more than once. When can I finally say, what is going on here? Is this thing, I'm not saying it's fake, but I ask myself, what is it? Is it real? Is it, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
at
seeing
the end,
a lot
it
of
becomes
results
a
here.
blur.
Yeah.
Like, what just happened? You know?
And dude, the thing with the hospitals too, I put it this way. When you take everybody that has any level of illness, you take the person that's fine, the person that really is sick, whatever, and you shove them all in one spot to quarantine them, of course it's going to look like me. And then you put a handful of people in there to take care of them. Yeah, those people are going to be losing their minds.
Yeah, of course.
It's horrible. It's crazy. Well, yeah, you stuffed all these people in one. You know, then you have the other end of it. You have these nurses doing these elaborate dance videos in the hospital. Dude, how did you have the time to put this thing together? This choreography.
Yeah.
If the whole world's turning upside down. What about that dude, I forget his name. He went to the hospital and he like went up to him and he said, hey, where's all the people? Like he went in the parking lot. There's supposed to be like people everywhere, lines of people waiting to get in. And the, you know, the guy working in the hospital was like, yeah, that's not really happening. Great. Like he just catches them on video saying that. It's not really happening.
Yeah, it's not a real thing.
You know, the people in Pennsylvania, that press conference, they had the news person. Are we supposed to put our masks on? Yeah, we don't really wear the mask. We just wear it when the camera's on. And it's a big joke. It's a bit, you know, people are losing everything. They're having their 2 years of their lives taken away, and it's a big joke. Everybody's giggling, you know. But yeah, Nick, and it never really went away. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I see it today
Still
when
there,
I was out.
yeah.
People still wearing masks.
Yeah.
The plexiglass shields still up everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I walk into Newberry Comics to get my stuff,
Right.
I still have to stare at that giant plexiglass
Right, it's
thing in
still
front of
there,
me.
yeah.
That just, it won't go away. And it's right at the register. If you go to the right of the register, it's not there. If you go to the left of the register,
Right.
it's not there.
Right.
Anywhere in the store, not there.
Right.
Right there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So-
I get
so-
it, like people like, yeah, customers sometimes they when they talk they spit like.
Okay, but what happens if you walk up behind
Who
the
cares?
desk to help a customer find something and they're
Yeah.
spitting?
Yeah,
You
I need to
carry a
get this
shield with you and like hold it like that.
I need to
with
get
a-
this Pokemon card pack off this top shelf.
Right.
Can you give me a hand? And you're talking face to face.
Right, right,
But then
right.
when they go up to the register to pay, you know, it's still
Right.
So
you
what's the
catch
difference?
it at the desk, but not when you're outside of the desk.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's still people that wear the mask outside. I've seen people wearing the mask in their car.
By themselves in the car.
Yeah, you know what I mean? People that I've seen when it was really really bad, people that would wear the mask outside because they were terrified of getting the coronavirus, but they
Right.
pull their mask down to smoke a cigarette.
Right. Yeah.
So
that too. Yeah.
Great
Pulling it
job
down,
right
smoke
there.
a cigarette.
Great job.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, we could go
Yeah,
on.
it's just such a deep rabbit hole that you just go down, and it really never ends.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, man, I don't know how these guys like Charlie Baker, Karen Polito.
Yeah.
I don't understand how I couldn't imagine if I ruined that many lives over this nonsense, how I could look myself in the mirror after. I don't know how these guys sleep with themselves. Charlie Baker, now head of the college basketball. The last guy made $3 million that had that position. I mean, dude, you know the other funny thing I heard was Marty Walsh. He's another one. Let's talk about him. I heard he's the head of like I'm almost afraid to say it because I don't want to mess it up. But like, he got a job. Like he's like the head of the hockey union or something like that. He got some sports job too. So it's like, you know, all this stuff was just to elevate these people. Remember Marty Walsh? If you go into his city without a mask, you get a fine. Then he came down here to the South Shore where we live.
Yeah.
He came down here on our turf and got caught without a mask.
Yep.
And he goes, "Well, I had it in my pocket." So
Yeah,
what?
you had it in your pocket.
So
Bart.
what?
Yeah. Where's his fine?
Right.
He didn't get one.
No, of course he didn't. How many people got caught without a mask? Gina Raimondo, Karen Polito, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I can go on and on. Lori Lightfoot, on and on and on. Fauci get caught without the mask more than once.
Was at a baseball game and he wasn't wearing it.
Right. How about Ellen DeGeneres got her whole audience, all these talk show people, the audience is in the mask. Everyone's got their face in mummy bandages. And then they got pictures of them, like you said, at the Super Bowl, MTV Music Awards, whatever, they're partying, no mask. It's like a big joke. Dude, I'd say
that's
to
what
people,
it was. This whole thing was just a big joke.
I'd say to people, and then I talked about Cuomo, the governor, and then his brother works, I think, for CNN, the other Cuomo. He's caught without wearing a mask. And I'd say to people, dude, do you see this? These people who on TV who are telling you to wear these things are not wearing it when the camera's off.
Following their
they
own
don't
protocols.
believe in what they're telling you.
Yeah.
So, Nick, let's get a few more things. Let's get into that a little bit. You and me have talked a lot about the news and local news and the effect it has on people, on older people, the baby boomers, the World War II generation.
Yeah, yep.
And let's start here. First of all, we've talked extensively about this, and I know you find it comical when I lose my mind over this.
Yeah.
I've said it forever. And, I was telling someone today, Rush Limbaugh used to talk about this all the time. He's like, he didn't really say it the way I do. I'm a little more specific about it, but he alluded to it. The weather is like, the weather reports are almost like weaponized to terrify you.
Yes.
The news uses the weather to scare you. Now, what I would say is they use the weather to suck you into the broadcast. I would take it a step further.
Yeah, I would say
because
so. Yep.
even when it's not like a tornado or whatever, or a hurricane or whatever, the monsoon, the weather, just, you notice older people, it's this compulsive. Gotta see the weather, gotta see gotta shut everything down. I've seen people at like 10 o'clock at night on car rides home, like, gotta check the weather. Dude, the day's over.
Yeah.
What are you checking? Like, sucking people in with that weather, making them believe, I've got to hear the weather, I've got to get that. I'm just coming to see the weather. Yeah, but you sat through all that other nonsense.
Right. And it's usually 6 o'clock news.
Right.
I believe they start with the weather, I think.
Well,
I mean,
if there's going to be a weather situation, they'll give a quick update. There has to be something specifically about to happen.
Yeah, it'll be like the top headlines.
Right.
They'll run through that real quick.
Right.
These are the top headlines for tonight.
Right.
But real quick, we're just going to do the weather.
Right.
Just get out of the way, and then they'll go there.
But if there's no weather situation, they will wait. And like I said with that hurricane, what did I say to you last week? Yeah. You're like, the hurricane never came. Dude, it didn't have to come.
Yeah.
The mission was already accomplished. They scared the living snot out of everybody. Yep. But what Rush Limbaugh used to say, he took it to the level where he used to say, dude, these people, when there's going to be a weather incident, they sit and pray that they pray and want and wish that people will die. Yeah. They want people to die. They need people to die because that brings in viewers.
Yes.
And they're like, they want the highest death toll, which is really sick and sad to think people would want that, but I'm starting to believe it.
Yeah, I would say I would believe that as well.
Yeah. The other thing too is, so the weather, right? Using that to panic people, get them into the broadcast.
Well, that's what Morrissey said,
Right.
Stop watching the news. The news is contrived to
right.
Scare you.
Yeah. And I would say specifically, I would, again, narrow it down even more. I think local news does that better than national news. I've always stood by that because at least, dude, I've said this. With national news, even though it's doom and gloom, as Rush Limbaugh would say, or maybe it's one-sided, right or left, at least it's world affairs, national stories, politics. At least there's some validity. Dude, this local news, like I said, man, a tree falling on someone's house is not a news story.
Right.
That's gossip. That's a tragedy that family is dealing with, and it's none of your business.
Yeah.
And they're using
But the
that.
newsman's got to be out front with their cameras.
Right. They're using
what
that
happened?
to suck people in. Right. And I've said I've advocated, dude, stop talking when they knock on your door and look for an interview. Refuse. It's partially your fault that this is happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, dude. Okay, let me say something about this, Brian. I've noticed in other parts of the country, I watch it, and the setup, the colors, the logo, the way they speak, it's exact. It's like you could be in. I was in New Mexico one time in a hotel, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen this mashup. It's incredible.
Is that the one with all the news?
Yeah, it shows them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Play one if you want.
Yeah, do you want to play it over the thing? Can we?
Is it the video I'm thinking of where they?
There's no video, but it'll be audio.
But if I hold it up to the microphone, it'll be cool.
There will already be audio.
Okay.
Press play.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll do it in 1 second. I want to play this top one. Yeah, dude. Like even before I saw this video they put on YouTube.
Yeah.
I noticed that on my own.
Yeah, it's very monotone.
Right.
Very.
Yeah. Nick, I'm here in front of the Whitman Studios.
Yeah.
That's so obnoxious. Like they learn how to talk and everything. And I've said, I've told people, listen, man, when I've gone up to I mean, you know this. I've walked right up to news people when they're in front of a house when little kids died or something. I'm like, what are you doing? Haven't these people been through enough? And they're embarrassed. They put their heads down.
Yeah.
Dude, what are you upset about? You're confident. I mean, you put these broadcasts out every day. It took me to tell you this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Nick? I'm sorry.
I've always wondered, like, why they don't get upset. You know what I mean? Like, they report on all these tragic things, some, little toddler was murdered by his father, whatever.
Right.
Why don't they cry? Why don't they get upset? Why, you know what
I mean?
If I was me, the news reporter, if it was me, dude, I would have gone home and just, like, lost my shit. How do you come to work the next day and continue to repeat these stories over and over and over again?
What about the newscaster when Woody Harrelson shot Robert Downey Jr.? Was it Vicky or Mallory?
What did the news reporter? Was he like upset? Oh, I don't even.
It was just on a movie. It was the only time I saw a news reporter get upset.
Okay. What I was gonna say was, Nick, here's what I think. I think deep down they know they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But it's like everything else you and me talk about. It could be the coronavirus. It could be anything. That people put this shield up and defend whatever it is they're putting out to other people. Can you bring that up again, dude? I'm gonna play this thing. Do you have it wired in, or do I have to hold it up to the mic?
No, you don't have to hold it up.
Okay, so you've got it like connected to the. Yeah. Okay, so let's listen to this for a sec.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
They stand together at the end, just like up here. That's creepy. They all matched up like that.
And false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media.
That's creepy.
Without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own.
I love how what they're talking about is people doing the thing that they're doing.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is
And
extremely
the girl
dangerous.
looks at the guy while he's.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 You had enough. Right when it ended. You know what else too? You know what else is weird that they could do the same thing? Did you know how you hear, like, again, if you listen to like a conservative talk guy, they'll be like, the election, the Democrats cheat. They're trying to take our freedoms away. They're enslaving us. Dude, then you go listen to a left wing, like you put The View on, where they hate Republicans. Dude, they're saying the exact same thing. Republicans cheat. They're not following the Constitution. Like they will literally, dude. Remember how up here would be like, oh, the coronavirus, they're taking our constitutional rights. The people on the other side will literally say politicians who don't believe in the coronavirus and the shot and all that are infringing on our constitutional rights. Dude, it's crazy. They're both sides are saying the exact same thing, Republicans and Democrats. You could do that same mashup, I think. By the way, back to the coronavirus for a minute. There is another thing I want to talk about for a second. We can't end this without talking about this. The guy from Oasis, that clip of him on that talking about when they asked him about the coronavirus. And he was like, "Oh right, I got the you got this disease going around." was it Liam or I forget the two names, the two brothers there. Remember I kept quoting it like obsessively. I'm like, all right, but it sees me eating a sandwich and it runs in the other direction. Yeah. All right, right. And he's like, the guy's like, yeah, but he's like, the reason you wear the mask. He's like, listen to me, mate. Listen to me, mate. Right. And he's, oh my, dude, that like got me through a lot of that. I found that to be so entertaining. What happened was the guitar player from Oasis, they asked him about the coronavirus and like wearing a mask and stuff. He's like, I don't wear a mask. He's like, why not? And he goes into this spiel about how the whole it was hilarious. Just ripping this dude to shreds. Yeah. That was beautiful. I found that. Yeah, it's Noel and Liam.
No,
I forget which one. I want to say it was.
I think Liam Gallagher is the
singer, right? And Noel's the guitar player.
I believe so.
They look so much alike, but yeah, that was hilarious. He's like, right, there's this killer disease ripping through the subway, but it's gonna see me eating a sandwich and running the other direction. I mean, he was right though, dude. And dude, you know what was crazy about it? Everything he said in that made sense, and he got roasted for it by the UK press. Like, how dare you? Yeah. This is serious. What? Okay, here's one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap up. This is worth talking about. Dude, remember the protests in Australia, Canada, Europe? Thousands and thousands of people piled in the streets protesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This was the...
when?
Oh, during the coronavirus. You didn't see any of that? Oh, man. Yo, Australia was out of control. David Icke, is that his name? He spoke at one of the ones.
About the BLM riots?
No. I'm talking about during the coronavirus. They were protesting the shutdowns. All over Europe, Australia, everywhere. And I kept saying to you, I go, dude, look at this. They fought back harder than the Americans did. Yeah. We could never, ever put a protest.
I think we are the most subdued country.
Without a doubt, dude. That
hands
was
down, we are.
We are not.
America is called like the strongest country. Yeah. The most free country. We are not. We are absolutely
I sadly
the worst country.
I sadly have to say. Well, I would put it this way. Can I help you a little bit? I'd say the best way to put it is this. I felt, as it concerned the coronavirus and the shutdowns, in comparison to those other countries, we were the most submissive, most obedient. Yeah. There was absolutely no doubt about it. Like, you cannot argue that looking at the protests that they had. You know what I mean? Yeah. And everyone kept waiting, like, wait till it's America's turn. Dude, we never stood up.
No,
we never stood, right?
Which is weird because, I was just under the impression that the foundation of America was standing up against tyranny and stuff like that. But when it comes down to tyranny being right in our face, we do nothing.
All that stuff that was taught to us in schools has not been utilized at all. It's a bunch of talk. Sorry. I don't want it to be. I'm not celebrating this. It makes me sad. Yeah. I don't like saying we're a subdued country. I'm just telling you what we are. Yeah. And I'll say this too. One thing, I go back and forth in this. I feel in some respects, other countries have an advantage we don't have. If somebody in, let's say, Italy says, okay, Italians, we're going to protest in Rome or in Milan on this day, whatever. You can kind of put that out to all of Italy. And because they're unified as Italians, I think they're more encouraged, like, well, if I live way down here, I'll travel all the way up to whatever, right? That can be said for any country. Dude, the problem with America, and I think this is one of the things we're up against. Not an excuse. I'm just trying to, reason this. Dude, we don't work that way. No. We have 50 individual countries. You can call them states. Dude, we operate like individual countries. Yeah. We really do, dude. You associate with this state, an American, let me say something for people outside of here. I feel in general, I really believe this, a lot of Americans associate more with their state than they do on the national level.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
somebody's from Boston immediately when they're out of state, one, by their accent.
Well, the accents, we have all these different accents.
Two, if they're wearing a Boston Red Sox hat.
Right, there's that too. So think about it, dude. Where you might have Poland versus Germany, we have Chicago versus Tampa. Yeah. You get what we even divide the sports up that way, right?
Yeah. The entire country is just divided, and hard to unify one entire country.
That's something we're up against when we put these protests together. Now,
I got something we're up against.
Okay, what's that? All right, cool. We just paused for a second to look at an article. We'll get to that in a second. What were we just talking about a second ago?
The current state of where we.
Oh yeah. So what I was saying was okay.
Yeah.
So we just paused for a minute to read an article. We're divided up in state by state, but the thing is that I still feel like I understand that is what we're kind of up against, but I also think that okay. Let's say everybody in Alabama wanted to have. Let's say we did it state by state. How is what I'm saying accounting for the fact that Australia is massive in comparison? Like a lot of these countries were 10 times bigger than one of our single states. And yet they were able to round all those people up, which kind of goes against what I just said, where, well, we're kind of segregated here and stuff. Okay, then how does that explain? Then why weren't there individual protests in each city or each state that were as big as what we saw in other countries? And that would get back to, well, we just weren't as dedicated as they were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, they put us to shame, I think, with the protesting.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I 100% agree.
Nick, before I get to this article that we just read that we're going to talk about real quick, any other coronavirus stuff you wanted to share or stories or anything before we wrap that up?
I touched on all the major ones, really.
Yeah, I think we got through. That was a short run through of a lot of the stuff we talked about. And then we just, we paused for a minute to look at this article as we've done in other episodes. Leaders from the United Nations, yet again, determined to come up with some type of catastrophe. Well, they didn't say that, but they say if there was a catastrophe, which we know what that means. Plan for it to happen. They're even talking about it happening in outer space.
For the next crisis.
Right. They're preparing themselves how they're going to deal with us and, tell us to stay in our houses again if something happens.
It just seems like we're all toddlers.
Right. That's how they look at us. Right. We're their subjects. And on top of that, just pushing an agenda. They're talking about 20 mile per hour speed limits in England. It was Wales, right, Brian? And how that's going to be everywhere soon.
All residential areas.
Right. What they didn't really get into what the reason behind that was. Is it like so people don't get run over? What is?
There's probably more links in there.
Yeah, I would think it would be like an environmental thing.
I think it's supposed to.
And dude, you know what's such a shame about that too? When the United Nations does this type of stuff, and they're like, we're going to make all these rules and everyone's going to get on board and you're going to be our slaves and it's for your own good. It's for the environment. Dude, what bothers me is a lot of this stuff that they use against us are rooted in very good intentions. You shouldn't, it's good to treat the earth properly and to not pollute and to treat people equally and not have starving people. No one's against any of that stuff. It's being exploited. It's tugging on people's emotions and getting them to do things that they shouldn't be doing in the name of charity. And I think that's part of the problem. And that's the first thing that comes to mind when I read that article is, they're talking about all these wonderful things. We're going to make it so everybody's on the same page and no one's suffering. Well, yeah, at what expense? New York City is making the place into this.
Sustainability.
Right.
What sustainability would really mean is something that they can absolutely manage.
Right. Look at New York City.
They said stay in control.
Right. New York City, they're making everything safe, but at what expense? So.
Well, that's new blue voters, I believe. So they think.
Yeah.
So that's one angle.
Right. Well, Brian,
they're getting licensed up.
Right.
They're getting, their legal status expedited, supposedly.
By the way, I don't want to get into it right now, but I told you something that happened to someone close to me politically. And, dude, you made a comment to me in the last episode, or maybe it was the one before about, listen, man, you might be surprised. There may be more people out there that are trying to work within town governments and change things that maybe aren't cool with everything that's happening. And I think this thing that happened to him, you were right, dude. I will concede to the fact there's probably a silent majority out there, even on the South Shore, that are I see them slowly getting organized, and I'm seeing that a little bit just from the people I told about this whole thing, and that, you know, want to like come out of the woodwork now and go to certain events and stuff.
Connect.
Right.
Network.
Right. So anyway, well, Nick, listen, my original plan was to do this down the road, but I thought tonight would be a good night to do it. We don't advertise or announce any of the guests. You have to just tune in and find out.
Surprise.
We got another surprise. The next episode, we got a guest, surprise guest. People will see when they tune in. But tonight it was Nick. And Nick, I'm glad you came on.
Yes, thank you.
I really wanted to talk about this stuff we had talked. I mean, we talked about this a lot during that. And I'm glad you came here because I wanted this audience that we're building to hear this. And to know, you know, dude, I've never, the one time in my life, you know, I can't stand people when they act like they're the best at everything or whatever, because there's always a bigger fish out there. That was the one time when I did get a chip on my shoulder, because I looked around at all these guys, these older people who had, you know, like I've always said, out on the playground, the coaches and the whatever. Oh, you guys, you know, like you said in school, like we're studying history, we're studying the American Revolution. They're telling us, oh, you got to grow up and someday you got to stand up for freedom. And then when this all happened, like, where were these people? Terrified. I had specific episodes where I asked people to stand with me. These same people that, when I was younger, preached all this stuff. And then they went and hid under their table. And I got a big chip on my shoulder. I did. I said, listen, man, I'm willing to go into a restaurant or whatever, a store, and get arrested for not wearing a mask. And you guys won't join me. It made me a little angry. Yeah. And I did get a bit of a chip on my shoulder. And I don't regret it. I don't feel bad about it. I think I earned it. I mean,
sure.
I did exactly everything I said that I say in this microphone or whatever. I mean, I backed it all up. And a lot of people didn't. It made me angry. And I just, you know, I'll close by saying this. This is my final comment. I've had a lot of people kind of come back to me and apologize to me and say, hey, you were right. And, you know, I'd say, well, what was going on? Well, you know, the TV was telling us this. And I'm like, dude, listen, man, you can't take 2 years to figure this out.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to take 2 years to figure out that you were getting slapped around. You can't be that attached to the TV. And when they say, well, next time, dude, you might not get a next time for another 50 years.
Exactly.
That was your moment. And you might not get another next time. Look at everything that was taken from us. You're going to wait around for the next one? Good luck.
Yeah.
So,
and then again, you know, people don't.
Right. And that's not to take away, like, what, you know, say, for example, the article Brian just, I know the line keeps getting pushed back. People are always trying to take our freedoms. But those big major moments when you can really make a stand, I think those are rare. But
yeah. Well, I think it took the country and the world essentially off guard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, everybody got comfortable or was comfortable, and then something like that happened. They're like, well, shit, what do we do?
Right.
You know what I mean? They were like,
yeah, I guess.
I think, you know what I mean? I was just like, well, what do we do? What's the right thing to do? Is this what they saying on TV is the right thing to do?
The other side
people
of the coin
didn't think things through.
Right. But the other side of the coin, too, and again, I get back to, like, I think this started way before the coronavirus. I think this was just our view of illness was already being shaped to be afraid of something like this.
Yeah.
I you know, I talked with, you know, Nick is, you're in a band with me too. Like you're in several bands with me. That's our connection.
A million.
How about the fact that we just kept practicing and just kept like, we were like the only band.
Yeah.
We'd be like, nobody was up here. And we're like, right, we wrote an album. Right. But, what I was going to say was, I remember one of my bands, one of the ones you're not in, someone was like exposed, and finally, like, the drummer in that band was like, dude, I don't care. Come to practice. I'm sick of hearing about this.
Yeah,
right?
really. Like, how much can you?
But what I was going to say was, you know, in one of the bands we're in, you know, I've often had a discussion with one of our members, and probably with you too. Me and him have, like, scrutinized this and picked this apart, where we're like, dude, what happened to us where we didn't fall for this? Like, not just the coronavirus, but, like, I've had long conversations with him about this. Like, dude, how come every time something like this happens, even when I was a kid, what was it? Why did my brain interpret things that, like, when everyone was going one way, I went the other way, and I just didn't fall for this stuff? I don't have the answer to that. I don't know why it was so difficult to get me to believe in stuff like this, but it just, I've been lucky, I guess. I mean, I've escaped, like, this
Yeah, I think you escaped
cult mentality. You know,
a decent amount of indoctrination.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe.
Well, we all went through it.
Yeah.
We all did. But what made look at the three of us having these discussions. Why did something happened, and not just the three of us, but maybe the people in this audience. I asked my audience this question too. You're tuning into this show. If you like this show, what happened in your life that you were able to, it's a gift, I think, to separate. I know some people just maybe educate themselves and a light pops in their head. Other people too.
Well,
dude,
that's what happened to me.
I think there's a lot of people too, dude, that are just kind of, born this way. It's like Henry Rollins said. Some people just weren't equipped for this earth, and they just think outside the box. So,
I just learned what a scam was early, and I look around. I'm like, no shit.
I remember a lot of times when I was a kid, and this answer now angers me. Dude, I can't tell you how many times, and I think a lot of kids ask this, and they get the same answer. When a toddler is learning how to talk and figure out the world, whenever they see something, they see all this messed up stuff, and they know it's messed up right away. Their gut tells them, and they start asking their parents about it. And the parents just say, this is just how we do it. This is what it is.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's been like this forever. I don't have an issue with Santa Claus, though, and stuff like that.
That's the first lie they ever tell
I know,
you.
but that's fun for the kids, though. That's not like taking the kid, you go to the doctor, you see them sticking in a needle in you. It's torture. You know something's wrong. Like, well, this is just what we do, right? When I got a lot of that didn't cut it for me. And now I look back angry now, kind of like the adults, like all these guys now that are like, wow, this is messed up. I tried telling you when I was a kid and you didn't want to hear it. And you kept, well, this is just what we do. This is just how it is. Dude, it can't take you decades to figure this out. That's one of the downfalls of the World War II generation and the baby boomers. It takes them too long to figure it out. And when they figure it out, it's too late. So, anyway, that's all I got. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I would
Brian.
say one last thing.
Yeah. One last thing. Go ahead as the music's rolling out.
Check out
the
movie Equilibrium.
Okay.
Check out the book and movie Animal Farm.
Okay.
And They Live. Really important movies that you should see that relate to the topics that we talked on today.
Nick, I would also say any of you that are into metal or extreme music, check out our band, Branch Davidian. We address all this stuff.
Yeah, we touch on all the topics.
Yeah, and it's gotten us in a lot of trouble.
Sure
it's gotten us canceled and boycotted, but we're still here. We're still doing our thing.
Yep.
So anyway, all right, that's it. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.